Take a look at the person next to you. Say, God loves you and loves you too. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. Come together. We 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 come together. Take a look at the person next to you. Recognize the God in you. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. Come together. We come together. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love.
Every walk of life. That's it. That's your note.
Take a look at the person.
Take a look at the person next to you. Say, God loves you and I love you. The love and the sanctuary, and the unity.
Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together.
We come together.
Come together.
We come together.
Come together.
We come together in the name of.
Come together in the name of love. Come together.
Come together.
Come together.
We come together.
Come together.
We come together in the name of love. We got an extra verse in there. Great, thank you. Let's give it up for Polly, please. So just so you know, Polly is here. I think you got the call, about 7 o'clock last night?
I was out at dinner.
Out at dinner and got the call.
I didn't
and
get
he's
home until about 10, 11 o'clock and get to work.
Yeah. So we're just really blessed to have you here today. And you guys are in for a real treat because the man can play and sing. And once he gets away from this church format, it's a baptism by fire today. So it's great to have you here. It's great to have all of you here. It's great to have you visiting us online. And if this is your first time here, my name is Reverend Michael McMorrow. And I'm the senior minister here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Granada Hills, California, located in the North San Fernando Valley, a place where we welcome all who practice their beliefs in faith and love. And I'm joined today by one of our staff ministers and the lead of our animal kinship group, Reverend Kathy Lyons. So let's give her some love here and on the chat. And we're going to start our service the way we start every service here by taking a deep conscious breath and releasing and just allowing ourselves to surrender to this eternal now moment as we come together for our call to service, which we call lighting the flames of faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call Spirit. Now, fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this morning. So as Reverend Kathy lights the first candle, it's for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. The fifth candle we light for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. The seventh candle we light for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. The 10th candle we light for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives, for the space we hold for them here in the sanctuary, within our online community, and within our own hearts. And this morning, as we light the healing candle, I have my Uncle Jimmy up here, or what's left of him anyway, so maybe you can hold him in love and consciousness as I take him back to Ireland this week, and put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experienced the healing flame of God's eternal love.
In consciousness, as I speak my word in the first person for each one here, as I recognize one power, one presence, one life, and that life is God's life and my life right now, and recognizing that God is peace and harmony and love and enlightenment, and I am one with this presence of God, one in this mind of God of love, peace, and enlightenment. So I hereby proclaim right now that this day, this service, is a perfect idea in the mind of God, where whether I'm in person or online, anywhere in the world, I just feel that love and light of God. I feel that peace and harmony and enlightenment as God expresses through everyone here. And so I am so grateful. I am so appreciative today to feel that peace, harmony, and enlightenment. And I just give thanks as I celebrate my life. And so with gratitude, I release my word to the law. I know it is done. I know it is so. And together we say, and so it is. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. And let me ask you this question. Is there one day of your life that you would like to permanently delete? If there's any day, anything, just thinking about that. This was a question that was asked in Toastmasters. They have one section of the meeting which somebody will ask somebody a question on the spot and they have to answer extemporaneously or spontaneously. I wasn't called on for this question, but I really got to thinking about this. Is there any day in my life that I would like to delete permanently? You know, we can delete from our computer or delete phone messages, but can we do that with the past? I can't speak for anybody who's experienced violence or lost a loved one in, say, a shooting, and there's certain days in history, of course, like 9/11, that I think most people would want deleted. But I was thinking about this, my own personal life and decisions that I've made that made an impact. And I would like to say that unequivocally, no, I don't think there's any day that experience that I would want to delete. Of course, I've had regrets, but I now realize that every experience in my life, I grew from it. There have been decisions I've made, like regretting a job that I took, that I accepted, and oh, why did I could delete that day I ever went on that interview. Or maybe when the day where I met my ex. How many people have you heard, and I've heard people say, if I only hadn't gone to such and such a place, I never would have met that guy, and I wouldn't have had my heart broken, so I wish I'd never gone to that place. And that's probably a country western song. I'm not that familiar with that music. But the truth is that regardless of what decisions I've made, I know that every single decision and experience, that was a result of my own consciousness. We know about the law of attraction. If I hadn't have gone on a particular job interview and had a negative experience, I probably would have attracted a similar type job, maybe different people, but there would have been probably the same scenario. The same thing with relationships. Probably, if I hadn't met a particular man, I probably would have attracted somebody similar and had a similar experience. So all we can do is see how we can grow from an experience. I once heard a minister, Dr. Carlo D. Giovanni, he was a minister at North Hollywood years and years ago, who said, there's no mistakes, only experiences. So, would you like to erase a day in your life? I say no. What I can do, though, is release the idea of failure, because that's a lot of times I think I know for myself, if I've had a negative experience, I feel like I failed in some way. But Ernest Holmes says, erase the idea of failure. On page 302 of the Science of Mind textbook, he says, if one appears to have failed, he or they should completely erase the idea of failure by stating that there are no failures. So remember that every single experience that we've had, usually it brought us to where we're here today. And also, we can release the past. It's futile to go back and regret past experiences. Wayne Dyer once said that there's two things, that if you're feeling guilty or regret, you're living in the past, and if you're feeling worried, you're living in the future. So I think it's just know that the power is in the present moment. Ernest Holmes says on page 290, there is one supreme intelligence that governs, guides, and guards me what to do and how to act. Affirm that. So the experiences from here on out are positive ones. Thank you.
There is one flame that burns in our heart. There is one light shines in our love. We light this flame with faith. We find His light within our own soul. Well, there is one flame, one light within.
Thank you so much.
Congregational song. I'm sorry.
Would you mind if I change up from the last
I
play?
would not mind.
She mentioned a country song about something that kind of relates to what you...
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, go for it.
absolutely.
I know you got some things to work through. I know you got some things going on in your head. But it's all right with me. I know you got some pain to offer. I know you got some things just troubling your mind. But it's all right with me. So I want you to know I feel a lot like you. And everybody around you, they feel a lot like you. You ain't alone, 'cause everybody feels a lot like you. I know you had some bad things go down. I know you had some trouble off in your past. It's gonna be all right now. I know you got your guard up. I know you built a wall all around your heart. You gotta let it go now. 'Cause I want you to know I feel a lot like you. And everybody around you, they feel a lot like you. Well, you ain't alone now, 'cause everybody feels a lot like you. And everybody feels low sometimes, and everybody feels ashamed, and everybody feels downhearted now, and everybody feels the pain. But once in a while you see the truth, that your heart's beautiful through and through. I know you got so much to offer. I see it every day of your life. You can't see it, Mama. I know if you walked a mile in my shoes, you feel the same as I do about you. You're gonna be all right now. So I want you to know I feel a lot like you. And everybody around you, they feel a lot like you. You ain't alone now, 'cause everybody feels just like you. See, everybody feels a lot like you. And everybody around you now, they feel a lot like you. Well, you ain't alone, 'cause everybody feels a lot like you. Do, do,
I have the announcements. If you want prayer support, you can find a practitioner two ways. One is online at cslgh.org, or if you're here in person, you may have a 1-minute miracle. Reverend Nancy is here and I'm here, so if you want a 1-minute miracle to change your life, feel free to contact either of us. Fellowship Zoom meeting at 11:45 a.m., facilitated by Judy Dunkley. Healing Support Group is also online at 1 o'clock with Reverend Jessica Fish. And coming up, and I believe this has already started, but you're welcome to join, Mommy Spiritual Spa. And that's on Wednesday, July 13th in person at 9:30 with our newest reverend. Well, she's been a reverend for probably a year and a half now, Nicole. Law of Attraction Group, online Sunday, June 17th, and that's with Michael. That's online with Michael Carlin. And next week also, I host the Animal Kinship Group online. If you love animals, either grieving for an animal, lost animal companion, or just want to talk about and brag about your cat, dog, turtle, whatever, bird, whatever it is, join me. And membership. Would you like to win friends and influence others? Become a member and share the wonderfulness with the world. Fill out an application today, and you can also join even if you're an online participant. And that's the announcements for today. So now let us stand for our not lighting the flames of faith. My goodness, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Declarations of principles. We believe in one universal spirit, manifesting through all, natural and incarnated in us. We believe that the universal spirit is personal to and reveals itself through everyone who recognizes its presence. We believe our faith operates upon a law of mind which automatically manifests in our experience according to that faith. We believe in the unity of all life and the immortality of the individual soul forever expanding. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the givingness of life to all.
Heaven's
Inside of me, heaven's inside of me. Oh, what spirit and nature within and without. Now that I know that God's right here, right now. You're gonna have to help me with this. Heaven's inside of me. Heaven's inside of you. Oh, heaven's inside of you. Oh, with spirit and nature, within and without. Now that I know that God's right here, right now. Heaven's inside of you. Heaven's inside of us. Heaven's inside of us. Oh, with spirit and nature, within and without. Now that I know that God's right here, right now. Heaven's inside of us. Thank you. You saved my voice. It's because Margie's here this week.
That's the reason.
Yeah. She was like, yeah, you can hit that note. You can, yeah, All right, so great to have you here. Great to have you back after travels around. Nice to have Margie back this week. And isn't it great to have Polly here this morning? Let's give Polly some love. You got some pipes, man. He's also a horn player, and he's a very versatile, I almost said magician,
But I don't
musician. You do that too?
I don't dance.
Okay. Anyway, so I look forward to getting you back with Teresa. Teresa was a trooper today, so she showed up and helped him walk through the first service, and she's not well. So isn't it great that our musicians show up? And really appreciate you being here today and doing it so wonderfully, really. It's always good to see professionals doing their thing. Yeah. And today's talk title, there's no PowerPoint today, but today's talk title is, I Give Thanks for the Blessings of God. I give thanks for the blessings of God. This is taken from the Science of Mind 365, which we've been working out of. And also, Dr. Edward Villon, our spiritual leader, has been doing this in the mornings at 7 a.m. on Facebook. If you are looking for a little spiritual practice, it's a little 15-minute meditation thing that he leads online. And it's around this theme for July, this theme of freedom, which we were speaking to last week. It was July 3rd, and this teaching is wonderful for promoting all the goodness of life, right? The many wondrous ways of being in the world where we can see the Spirit show up. And then we get to July 4th, and there's yet another mass shooting. And then our state cathedral, maybe even our national cathedral, Yosemite, up in flames right now. It's really been a crazy time to be a minister, I have to say. These last few years, and COVID, and this recent stuff, like holy smokes. And I have to say, it's been particularly a new thought minister, right? Because we are constantly looking for ways to see the good in life. But I think no matter our perspective, regardless of religion or political persuasion, whichever side of the continuum you're on, I think people everywhere are kind of feeling like we're all headed to hell in a handbasket these days. Yeah? Okay, I got one amen, okay? And it's interesting for me to hear how people are dealing with this and dealing with it so differently. So my aunt, I have my auntie on. She's the fun aunt. And maybe you're the fun aunt, I don't know. But she's the fun aunt in our family. She's always been a free thinker. And she has been a student of this teaching. So she was very excited when I discovered religious science. And she gave me my first religious science book, Ideas for Living by Ernest Holmes. So she's been a student of metaphysics, a student of Christian Science, and Mary Baker Eddy, a Christian Science practitioner, practices meditation. And I was at a family party on July 4th, and she took me by the elbow and took me aside and asked me, do you think we're living in the end times? Do you think we're living in the end times? The end of days? And I have to say, it took me back. It took me back for a minute or two. So how could my dear auntie, who's always been pretty much a free thinker, fall for this end of time screed? And that is what it is, by the way, right? It's a very shall we say, opportunistic reading of loose scriptural references. But you know, human beings have been obsessed with end times forever, right? Obsessed with this idea of Armageddon, even long before Jesus, right? So Jesus, when he was talking, he was actually referencing back to, in the Hebrew Bible, to Daniel, because he was another end of times guy. And since ancient times, we as a people, humans, have been trying to make sense of why horrible things have seemingly been set loose on the world. And doesn't it feel like that sometimes? So in the Hebrew Bible, we see these end time narratives. Narratives where God looks down on the world and he cuts out the righteous, and then he smotes everybody else, just lays destruction on everyone. And in the time of Jesus, this was common thought for many Jews. Because after all, they had it in their own experience, just 500 years before, when the Babylonians came through and conquered them, destroyed the temple, and then enslaved them and took them to Babylon. Right? So this end of times narrative was common even then. And then, of course, in Jesus' time, it was the Romans with their own brand of oppression. Right? But basically, we're looking at a narrative where times were tough, and they were going to get tougher in Judea, with the Romans being who the Romans were. And in fact, in time, in the 70s, in the Common Era, a Jewish revolt ended with the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And in fact, today, all that's left is one wall, the Wailing Wall. Now, this imagery was available to everyone, certainly available to John, or some version of John, who is considered the writer of the book of Revelation, which in Greek was actually the book of the Apocalypse. But the Greek, I can't say the Greek, but basically the English version is apocalypse, actually means to take the lid off or to reveal. Hence the book of Revelation. And academic Bible scholars emphasize that, like all of literature, whether you're talking about Emerson, Bronte, or even scriptural texts, in order to get to the deeper underlying meaning of texts, it's necessary to set it in its time. And this is particularly true with scriptural text. Now, this is tricky, very tricky, particularly with the New Testament. Less so with the Hebrew Bible, because even though it had an oral history that was perhaps thousands of years old before they got it down in writing, scholars were very particular about how they translated their copies, even still to this day. Right? So I don't know anything really about Hebrew writing, except that even just a little blip on the end of a letter changes the meaning of the letter. So they're very careful about observing this. The New Testament actually doesn't have what we have today surviving are copies of copies, except for Paul. But Paul clearly was caught up in this whole apocalyptic thinking as well, which is the point. The teachings of Jesus, it's clear that Jesus was caught up in this apocalyptic thinking, and that it's clear that early Christians believed that the end was as within a generation, Jesus said. Within a generation I will pass away and I will return. And so even Paul in his letters was saying it's best not to get married, right? Now, I know there's some here who might think that today as well, having been beat up a little bit maybe. But what he was speaking to is that it's all going to be over, right? He's going to show up and then we're all, and a new age is going to start. But this is tricky. It's tricky to base these things on scriptural texts that are thousands of years old, particularly if you're trying to attempt some meaning of the divine in a literal sense. If you're trying to use these texts in a literal way, rather as to read for inspiration, to read more like poetry, in the way poetry is inspiring, in the way that poetry is metaphorical and is pointing to deeper underlying truths. Now, the book of Revelation is interesting because it starts with all this crazy mayhem, and it's really trying to attempt to address why there is evil in the world and what to do about it. And so the book of Revelation has this whole thing of not only that there is evil, but this is how evil can really show up. And it describes all these horrible things. And so evil is shown to be very bad indeed, in this notion that it's flourishing and so forth. And then in the end, you have Jesus, who's known up until this point as the Prince of Peace, comes in at the end with an iron rod, destroying humanity on a white horse, swinging this rod and destroying things in the way that you would destroy a clay pot. It's very graphic. So Paula Erickson, a scholar, she writes, when things get as bad as you can possibly imagine in writings like this, that's your clue for knowing what time it is on God's clock and that things are getting ready to turn around. An apocalypse, in a sense, presents to the Western imagination a blueprint for reading signs of the times. Now, why is this important? To depress everybody this morning? No. But there's a couple of reasons for for looking at this, starting with our natural propensity for catastrophic thinking. That fear is first, and this fear or flight reaction is strong within us, and that it is up to you and to me to determine a real threat versus an imagined threat. And this is not easy to do, particularly when our consciousness is often primed with images that are catastrophic or inducing even more fear. And in modern times, let's face it, there's a lot of this kind of imagination going on. It's everywhere we turn. And this makes for a great end of times narrative. It's also a great recruiting tool for religion, and has been. Here's an existential threat. Believe this, and you can be saved. Now, frankly, I find this incredibly simplistic, and it shifts blames or responsibility for ourselves, from ourselves to them, to whoever them is, and then it codifies it, even sanctifies it. And when that happens, it no longer bears scrutiny. So we have this spiritual narrative that connects us with our biggest fears in our current time, ties it to an idea of original sin. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Ties it to this idea of original sin, and then offers up the solution that you better believe God loves you or you're going to get it. And this is too bad. This is too bad, for it dissuades and distracts from the hidden universal truths that the master teacher Jesus was teaching and are presented in today's message in the Science of Mind 365, which illustrates it beautifully, where Holmes quotes the story from Matthew about the loaves and the fishes. Excuse me. I'm negative. All right. And he says this, have you and I had the faith to bless that which perhaps seems so very small? Right? If we had the faith to bless that which perhaps seems so very small, a loaf of bread and a fish, and expect it to become multiplied in our experience to such an extent that it would not only bless us, but also bless everyone around us, what would that look like? We cannot help but believe that as Jesus broke the bread and blessed it in his own mind, he saw it multiplied and growing and flowing out to those around him. And this, Holmes writes, this is an example we should follow. To bless what we have, recognizing that it flows from a limitless source, that we are merely using it and distributing it. Now, one of my favorite expressions in this new way of thinking is there's a power for good in the universe available to everyone, and we can use it. But now we have another thing that Holmes is throwing, and we can distribute it. We not only use it, we can distribute it. We become then the vessels, the vehicle by which the living intelligence, the infinite spirit, the wellspring of love makes itself known on this earth plane. It flows from a limitless source. We are merely using it and distributing it, that there's always more. The limitless resources of the Spirit are at our command. The power of the infinite is our disposal. We have as much to use as we know how to take. So here we have to work on our allowing, our receiving. So to use an example in everyday living, it's like when we go out to lunch with a friend and they want to pick up the tab. Oh, no, right? Isn't that a curious behavior? What? It wasn't really until I got into a prosperity class where I just said thank you and received it for it because the person's wanting to pick up the check, right? Unlike in my barroom days, where you go to the bathroom before the barmaid gets back. Limitless. We have to allow it. We have to receive it. We have as much to use as we know how to take, but the taking is a thing of thought, the will, of imagination. It is a thing of inward feeling or interior awareness in that place where the mind has unified itself with the living spirit. Now, this is the great possibility for all of us, but how to get there? That's the trick, yeah? So Holmes says in this thing called you, that if we want to be free, we must no longer think of bondage, right? We must no longer think in ways that keep us held bound, if you like. To be free, to be truly free, is imprinted on our very being. Holmes writes in the Science of Mind textbook that the inherent nature of man is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom, and that we do well. We do well to listen to this inner voice. So we must create space. We must create space to be still. Create space to hear. to know. How to do that? Well, there's one simple activity that we can do, and that is to take a news fast. Take a fast from the news. So there was an article that I read just last week about how many journalists do not follow the news, do not read the news. They produce the news, but they don't follow. And how it's like this dirty little secret that they're afraid to share that with each other. And this particular journalist was talking about how even though she is helping to create the news, there's this weird thing that's going on in the same way that in the film The Social Dilemma, where you had these giants of the tech industry who are admitting they don't let their kids use tech because they know what it's designed to do. Right? So these were execs in Facebook and so forth. The writer and podcaster of On Being, you've heard me talk about Krista Tippett before. If you don't know this podcast, On Being, Krista Tippett, Google it. It is wonderful. She is such a wonderful interviewer and a real light in the world. And she observes that we humans are analog creatures, that we're analog creatures living in a digital world. And this is what we are struggling with. The 24-hour news cycle and social media is inundating us with too much stimulation, and most of it negative. In the 24-hour news cycle, we're probably taking in much of the news that is driven by clicks, and catastrophe drives clicks. So is it any wonder that so many people are experiencing and contemplating end-time scenarios? What a wonderful thing to think that Jesus is going to fly down in a chariot of fire, it says in Ezekiel, right? And then this whole thing's going to get itself worked out. But the truth is that the infinite power and presence has impressed upon our soul, impressed upon our mind, impressed upon our heart exactly what needs to be done. And we know what it is, but we don't do it. So this idea that some magic Jesus is going to descend from heaven to restore heaven here on earth is faulty thinking. It's magical thinking. And that's not a knock on this aspect of Christian teaching. But the universality of the teachings of Jesus that point us to the Holy Spirit, and to understand that our thinking creates our reality, that it is done unto us as we believe, and that it is the Father's good pleasure to give us the keys to the kingdom, and that there is nothing to earn but to do. To do what? To be open, to love God with our whole heart, soul, mind, body, and to love our neighbor as ourself. Heaven and hell, then, are states of consciousness. The second coming of Jesus is revelation, but it's a revelation of consciousness, an uncovering to take the lid off of the world as we currently see it, as this mishmash of horror and struggle and challenge that is being fed to us as a virtual reality screed of mayhem, to look beyond that and to know the deeper spiritual truth, the universal truth of compassion, of loving kindness, of love, and yes, even truth behind all of it. a consciousness of love that has compassion, loving kindness, and understanding at its core. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Let me seek first to understand rather than to be understood. Help me to listen first before I start shooting my mouth off about an opinion that nobody really cares about anyway. Now, Francis didn't take it that far, but he could have. A consciousness that is open at the top and a commitment to allowing the wellspring of love itself to be the healing agency in our world, and knowing this truth, taking this fish, this loaf, and multiplying it abundantly in our thought, knowing that even now, our sense of knowing a higher truth for life is impressing itself upon the race consciousness and raising the vibration, each one of us. It's an exponential thing because we are a reflection of that infinite presence to the extent that what? We allow ourselves to be. As Jesus broke the bread and blessed it in his own mind, he saw it multiplied and more. So what is it we're multiplying in our own thought? And is what we're watching or reading, is that helping to underscore that? Or is it making us nuts and breaking our heart? Well, it's probably both, right? But we are at choice. And I got to tell you, I'm preaching to this choir because I love reading the news. I love being informed. I love thinking that I know something. But most of it does not do what I really want to do, which is to reach out to others who think differently than I do so that we can raise the vibration of this co-creative experience that we're calling life together. Because I can do this with you. Right? By virtue of the fact that you show up here, we have certain principles that we agree in. It's taking it out there. So we come in here to get coached up, to get inspired up, to get loved up, to love up on each other, right? And then say, all right, go out there, kid. The ball's yours. That's what spiritual community is about. That's what coming and hearing musicians who can crack into and hit that place within their own soul and share to ours and resonate, right? And also just the fact that you are here, right? From a heart place and online as well, that we're supporting each other in these crazy times. And I kind of hope it is the end times, to be honest with you. The end of life as we currently know it, that what is being revealed to be healed. To understand that there really is work to do and that it's ours to do. And that prayer, meditation, spiritual mind treatment is essential to raise the vibration of not only our own life, but the lives of those around us. So I have in the back there, I want to make sure you guys pick up one of these, how to get a demonstration. A demonstration of what? A demonstration of the power of the living Spirit at work in your life. And he said the very first step in the second paragraph, get by yourself and be quiet for a few moments. This is very important. So make sure you get one of these and take that with you today. Let's do a little tinkle here. And I'm sorry I got full of the Holy Ghost and went too long. Just allow ourselves to think about the ways in which we can raise the vibration of our own heart, our own thinking, practices that we can engage in. Turning off the notifications on our cell phone might be a good start. Turning away from MSNBC, CNN, and fox. Just allow ourselves to be in the world. So I'll be gone for a couple weeks. Reverend Dr. Sue Rubin will be here next week. Wonderful speaker. Then Reverend Nicole will be up. Then Reverend Dr. Maureen. So for your assignment, should you choose to accept it over the next 3 weeks, is to cultivate this practice of a news fast, of meditation, of prayer, spiritual mind treatment. While you're at it, throw one in for the old Rev. Know that I'm taking you in my heart, each one of you. And then we'll get together in a few weeks and check in with each other. Now Paul's got something really wonderful for you.
I believe in the magic that only you'll see, and nothing compares with the pure love I feel from your heart, from your heart. Soft and sweet from the moment you first came to be, and nothing compares with the first time I held you in my arms, in my arms. And in my darkest hour of need, I think of you and I am free. I am free. I am free. There could be any mountain in front of me, and nothing can stop me from making my way back to your heart, back to your heart. And in my darkest hour of need, I think of you and I am free. I am free. I am free. Well, there could be any mountain in front of me, and nothing can stop me from making my way back to your heart, back to your heart.
Paulie, everybody, let's give him some love, shall we? Throw some love in the chat. What's your last name, Paulie?
Sarah,
Paulie Sarah.
like the girl's name.
Okay, Sarah.
C-E.
C-E. R. Okay.
Spelled a little different.
All right.
It's a nice Irish name.
It is, and you got you got website and whatever.
Yeah.
Can they find you if they want to download your music?
If they want to, yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to give yourself a
Spotify.
plug?
Yeah, just
All right.
search my name, you'll find something.
All right.
Good,
All right.
bad, or ugly.
Well, we know it was good today, so thank you very much. All right, and let's, if you would, Rev, bring up the baskets, or someone bring up the baskets, and we'll just we'll do 2 verses of the offering song. So for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, we welcome your contributions through electronic giving, either through our website, which will take you to PayPal, whether you're on Facebook, on the website, on YouTube. There's many ways for you to participate in our offering, and just know that we are grateful for whatever you can share. So when here in the room, if you've come prepared for an offering, just when the basket is free, come on up and we'll go into our offering song now.
Spirit gives
Through me, Spirit sees through me, Spirit lives. I'm not hitting this one all the Spirit lives and breathes through me. Spirit gives through you. Spirit receives through you. Spirit lives and breathes through you. Spirit lives and breathes through you. Squeak, squeak, squeak. I know. So you should be grateful I stopped singing. All right. So let's take a deep breath, recognizing and knowing that the gifts presented here this morning, so your online contributions are in here as well. Your mail-in contributions, those here in the room. So however your generosity finds its way to our center, we recognize that it is rooted in a consciousness of generosity and love that knows and knows that it knows that God is our source, our substance, our supply. And so from the generous heart of the individual, we representing the heart of this spiritual community, we accept these gifts with deep love and respect, as we know they go forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless this center for spiritual living and anyone connected to it. That we extend a blessing of love and prosperity onto to our community of Granada Hills, our city of Los Angeles, our state of California, our United States of America, all of its churches, temples, mosques, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them, and for our planet as well, that all of it is an emanation from the heart-mind of the one living Spirit. And to the extent that we know this to be so, we see it. We see its demonstration in ways great and small. This lifts our heart. We feel a sense of power and grace that propels us into ways of spiritual living that raise not only our own self, but those around us as well. And that's a good thing. And together, let's acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. Amen. So thank you all for being here, being so attentive as I kind of went on today. I just want to give a shout out to anyone who's in service in any way. So the lads in the back, we got Mike and Evan are holding down the live stream stuff. We got Reverend Nancy, who's available for spiritual mind treatment later, along with Reverend Kathy. And so for those of you who are in service, particularly those of you who are going to be holding down the fort while I'm gone, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know I don't say that enough, but I feel it always. So please, Rev, pray us out, and I'll stop talking.
So just join me. How grateful I am. How grateful I am to be here to celebrate this beautiful day and recognizing that one power, one presence, which is God, which is freedom, harmony, peace, love, and I am one with this presence of harmony, peace, love, freedom. And so right here, right now, I just know that I am just an embodiment of all these spiritual principles of love, peace, freedom, harmony. And so I declare that I have a life that is free from discord and that I'm experiencing from this day forward just that embodiment of love, of peace and harmony and freedom from anything unlike God. And I declare that this whole community, this planet is a peaceful place where we live with one another in love and harmony and peace. And so I release my word, giving thanks right now that it is done, it is so, and together we say, and so it is.
Amen. Good one, Rev.
Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that goes